Well, thanks everyone for joining us to an episode of Tabs talking about business strategy. Today, I have my friend Eagan Heath with me, and he's kind of my go-to guy when it comes to paid advertising. So I thought I'd bring him on today and just allow him to kind of share his knowledge to the audience here. So, Eagan, you want to start with just a quick introduction of who you are and what you do?
Yeah, James, thanks so much for having me on. I appreciate it. I'm excited to talk. So, I own a digital marketing agency. We've been going by the name Get Found Madison for about 6 years now. We also have kind of a sister agency called Caravan Digital, and we do, online marketing for e-commerce brands as well. So, I've worked with local businesses, worked with B2B companies, and worked with e-commerce brands. And we're doing things like SEO, Google ads, Facebook and Instagram ads. We've done some YouTube ads, and then, sometimes building landing pages and doing email marketing. So all kinds of digital marketing for clients in different industries.
Cool. Thank you. And just as a side note too, I've worked with Eagan in the past with my personal businesses as well as some clients and stuff too. He's always done a great job with that. But I guess a big open-ended question is why run paid ads? My background is more in the organic search engine optimization, that side of things too. But if you're a business, either owner or marketing person, what is the benefit of running paid ads versus just focusing on organic reach?
Yeah, great question. I think the big two factors are probably speed and scale. And so sometimes when I'm talking to a client, whether it's a local business, B2B company, what have you, if they're just getting started or they're trying to figure out, do we focus on SEO and organic? Do we focus on paid? I kind of say, what's your time frame? So if you need leads and sales, this week, this month, then ads is going to be the way to go. SEO, I say, is, more the juggernaut to the Google Ads speedboat, basically. So
Sure.
organic is great. Content marketing is great. I'm obviously a huge believer in it. We started life at Get Found Madison as an SEO agency, as you know. So I'm all about that. I think sometimes when you need to drive results faster, ads is the way to go. So in the case of Google ads, we've seen it for, service businesses that they went from zero to something like very quickly. And in the first week, in the first month, they were getting leads and they were getting sales and they were seeing ROI right away. So you sort of think about there's different places to advertise. There's different places to advertise online. But if you're tapping into existing demand with search engine marketing, with Google and Bing ads, that's usually a pretty good bet if people are going to a search engine and looking for what you do. The other piece about it is scale. Is you may not have control over how many times a month people search for what you do. So we've talked about it's kind of the search engine side here, whether it's the SEO side or the Google Ads side. Either way, you're trying to get in front of people when they're looking for maybe information about what you do or specifically looking to hire someone or buy something, right? So on the other side is, ads that are, let's say, not on search engines. Let's say they're around the web, they're on websites, maybe with the Google Display Network, maybe they're on social media with Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, etc. And you can really scale up and hit the gas much harder there. So when you find a profitable ad strategy, you can 2x, 3x, 4x, 5x, 10x your spend, and in some cases see commensurate results or still highly profitable results. And so particularly in the e-commerce space, when we see brands that have grown quickly into, a million in sales, multiple million in sales, 10 million plus in sales, advertising is always a piece of that. They're not sitting around waiting for people to look for what they do. They're going after and finding them, wherever people's attention is at.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let's kind of talk about speed here too, because I know with organic, rankings and SEO, I always tell people it's probably going to take a minimum of 6 months to start seeing results, and if not longer than that, you start looking at like really ramping things up. But you mentioned with paid ads, you can get started right away. I'm assuming there's still kind of a break-in period, or at least my experience is that you can start running ads right away, but then you start seeing what works and what doesn't work, and then kind of optimizing and scaling based on that. How do you kind of approach that with paid ad campaigns?
Yeah, I think you should, if you're just getting started, there's always kind of, okay, what's our testing budget? And realize that when you advertise effectively, when you get to the point where this is profitable, you're putting in $1 and you're getting 2 back or 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 back. That's effective advertising. That's what you're going for ultimately when you invest in marketing. But that doesn't happen right away. It takes, some trial and error. And so you need some budget up front, ideally at least a few $1,000s to get started, to get some data in, see what works, see what doesn't, tweak and optimize from there. And so, it really sort of depends on your industry, the keywords you're going after or where you're targeting. But I say, you need a few thousand clicks, ideally, certainly a few hundred and maybe a few thousand clicks to see, is my offer resonating? Is this the right landing page? Because it's not just the ad, it's also what happens after people click the ad in terms of what's going to get you leads, what's going to get you sales.
Yeah, let's kind of talk about that too. Like basically how do ads work, right? Because I think people just assume I just need to throw money at this, create some ads, and life moves on. But there is other components. There's a budget, there's targeting, there's the actual copy itself, the ad. What are the different components, and how do you kind of visualize those, or not visualize those, but how do you approach those when you're building out campaigns for clients?
Yeah, that's great. I like to start with the targeting and where are we advertising. And so that could even be strategy in terms of, are we on Facebook? Are we on LinkedIn? Are we on Google? And that really depends on, do people search for what I do? Like if it's a service business, is there demand out there and we could tap into that existing demand? If so, let's get some ads running on search, right? If it's more like this is a new product or service and people don't even know about it, they don't even know they need it. They're higher up in the funnel, we say. Here's the funnel and people down here are ready to buy. People up here are just like maybe problem aware. If that, they're not necessarily solution aware. And so if they're higher in the funnel, they may need some education. Maybe we're going to do a webinar. Maybe we're going to give them a free guide. Maybe there's a lead magnet, like a free checklist, and then a series of emails and things like that. That's what we do if people are maybe, problem aware, but not solution aware, not product or brand aware. So we have to think about kind of where in the buying cycle are they? Do they know they have a problem? Are they going to buy soon? Do they know, what to buy to solve their problem or to reach their goal? And if not, we're going up higher in the funnel. And so that's kind of the strategy piece on that. So where are you advertising? And then that messaging piece, I think, is key. And where are we going to send them? What's the offer? So one thing that we've done in our agency is we've really changed over from, hey, here's a Google ad, here's a Facebook ad, and now it's going to go to the website. Your website, you built with a different purpose in mind. Now you're advertising, and we really recommend having something like a lead page where it's a standalone page. Maybe your logo's at the top, but there's not a lot to do on that page. If you're doing lead generation, it's just here's what we are, here's the offer, maybe sign up for a free consult or sign up for a discussion with us, or sign up for the free webinar, whatever it is. And that's the only thing they can do on the page. I always say it's like George Jetson. He's in the future and all he does is pushes the big red button. It's like there should be a huge call to action button on that page for a very clear offer with very clear benefit to them. And then we measure the results. And so there's going to be impressions, how many people saw our ad, clicks, how many people clicked it, and then conversions, how many people bought, how many people became leads, basically, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to say that. Yeah, that's right. And just that piece of, that's what we're measuring. Ultimately, we want that end result, but in order to get that end result, we need impressions, we need clicks, and to get sales, in some cases, we need leads first. So there's multiple steps in the funnel, and we measure it all the way down. So it's the targeting, it's the budget, it's the creative and the messaging, and then it's the measurement.
That makes sense. Another big question I always run into too with people is, how do you compete against major brands, right? Even if you're like a small to medium-sized business, you might even have a good ad spend budget. But when you're up against big national brands, how do you kind of approach that with customers? And how do you kind of ensure they still have some sort of visibility and still have some sort of position they can get on the rankings too?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it certainly depends on the industry and kind of the vertical. In general, there's kind of this saying in direct response marketing, which is what I just described, that whoever can spend the most to acquire a customer wins. And so bigger brands have a huge advantage in that respect of not just that they have a bigger advertising budget, but if they can afford to pay more for a new customer, ultimately that can be very hard to compete. And so you find edge where you can. And oftentimes that's the micro details of what I'm describing here of your keywords are more dialed in, your ad creative is more dialed in. One thing I think small brands have a huge advantage in is don't shy away from putting your face on the brand or having people in your company in terms of it's a video and like you come to a landing page and there's the owner or there's the head of sales or there's the head of marketing and they're actually talking to you, and you can build trust and rapport and liking and authority that way versus bigger companies sometimes shy away from that. And they've got stock imagery and it's kind of bland and corporate and dull versus own it. If you're a smaller business, I would say own that and be more personable, to offset, to basically make that a competitive advantage.
No, that makes sense. I know when we were running ads before too, we tried running ads just going to our homepage versus having a landing page with like our faces on it. But then we started running ads, like different ads saying like, showing me versus showing somebody else and kind of seeing who the most attractive person was to potentially convert and stuff too. Is kind of a fun game to play too. It definitely makes a difference, right? Like certain people do want to buy from people. And if you can build that trust and have a good call to action right there, it definitely moves things along faster too. So
we saw.
Ask you, go ahead.
I was going to say one example is we were working with a car dealership, and we were driving traffic to their website. They had a 3 to 4% conversion rate. That was fine. That was getting them leads, and we switched over to a standalone ad landing page, and it had a headline, a video of the owner, and get in touch with us today. And we went from a, 3 to 4% conversion rate on the website up to a 10 to 20% conversion rate on this lead page, depending on the week, depending on the day. And that makes a huge difference in terms of your cost per lead.
Yeah, for sure. As going on that too, what are the different types of ads people can run? Because I think the assumption usually is when you think of Google Ads, you think of the text ads on the search results page, right? Which is kind of the standard. That's usually the introduction into Google Ads. But what are the other ad types that you like to run? And what are the scenarios you run them in, and what are you kind of most excited about amongst those different types?
Yeah, that's great. So I'll start bottom of funnel of people who are about to buy, people who have already seen your brand and things like that. So a good place to start is usually remarketing. In marketing, we talk about the rule of 7. People need to see you more than once. A lot of people, most people go to your website and they just leave. And if you don't have anything set up, they never see you again. And so you can remarket to people on Facebook and Instagram. You can do it on YouTube. You can do it on ads across the web inside the Google Ads platform. So you mentioned search ads at the top, but there's actually Google display ads as well, which I know you guys have run many times, or you've got experience with that in terms of people are browsing the web, they're looking at apps, they're reading the news, they're looking at sports or reading a blog, and they can see your ads everywhere. And so that's kind of, those are the ones that follow you around. It's the reason advertisers do that is because it's effective. And so people see you more than once. I always recommend have some kind of lead magnet, have a reason for them to click that ad and go do something. So that's a great bottom of funnel piece. I would say up a step from that is the search ads. So Google and Bing search ads, when someone's searching online for what you're doing or what you're offering, that's a great time to show up. And then higher in the funnel, I would say is, we call it top of funnel or tofu, is people who are net new. They've never heard of you. You don't even know if they're in the market for what you're doing, but you're trying to get them interested. You're trying to get people to raise their hand and say, I want to learn more. And so those might be webinars. Those might be lead magnets. Those might be ways to get people on your email list and then drip market them. And you can run those again, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Google Display Network. If people are doing B2B, LinkedIn can make sense. One thing we've seen good results with on the B2B side is Microsoft owns Bing, but Microsoft also owns LinkedIn now. And so if it's not profitable to run LinkedIn ads, but you still want to target by job title or industry or company, you can now do that in the Microsoft Audience Network. And that's cool. That's quite similar to Google Display Network, except, people are going to be using PCs, they're going to be on Windows, maybe they're on MSN or something like that. It's a whole different ecosystem from you're at home, you're on your Mac, you're using Chrome. A lot of people who are in business are, they're using Microsoft Edge as a browser, and then Bing and Microsoft, basically they're in that ecosystem. So you can advertise to them there.
Nice. Cool. Yeah. And you bring up the remarketing too. And remarketing for us was super powerful. I think, and really any business is a long sales cycle. Remarketing is really good because you might have someone touch on you, 9 months before they're going to purchase. So having that remarketing component and kind of staying top of mind is a great way, and a cost-effective way too. The cost per click tends to be lower for remarketing campaigns versus normal search ads and stuff too. I know in the past I've done content remarketing where if someone goes to our website, I'll start showing them ads for like blogs and webinars, and not even like get them back to like the bottom of the funnel to like buy right away. It's more of like keep learning from us, keep seeing our content, keep building trust. And then when they're ready to go, whether it be 6 months later, even a year later for some longer sales cycles, that's a great way to kind of bring them back in there too. Yes, you have to pay for it, obviously, but at the end of the day, you're building that trust and building that brand awareness too.
Yeah, I completely agree. I would say that's why if you're just starting with advertising, start with remarketing. And then if you say, hey, we need new leads to pour in the top of the funnel, then we're looking at some of those ads.
Awesome. So I guess one last question I have for you is, how do you recommend people get started with paid ads? We just kind of talked about remarketing, but what's kind of your process? What would you kind of recommend to people that are new to paid ads or have dabbled it in the past but never had success? Like, what would you recommend to get started?
Yeah, I would say map out your funnel in terms of not everyone's going to buy today. Not everyone's going to buy the first time they come to your site or hear about you. And so what's that process? Just like you said, is there content we can put in front of them? Do we have useful blog posts we could share? Is there like a series of emails we could send them? Is there a webinar? I like to think about that in terms of what's that $0 product where it's valuable to them. It's going to help educate them. It's going to help them understand their problems and the potential solutions to them. And then you can go to the next step. And so figure out what that offer is and then use your advertising to drive people to that offer. So that can be a free checklist, a free guide, a buyer's guide, informational, anything, any sort of lead magnet like that really takes you to the next level and differentiates you. And then both bottom of funnel and top of funnel of people who've been to your site and left, now they have a reason to come back and check out, something for free that's of value to them. Or people that have never heard of you before, you can start to educate them and they can, get familiar with your brand and reach out to you to become a lead eventually.
Awesome. Thanks. Well, yeah. Anything else you want to share with the audience before we roll out?
Yeah, no, that's great. I think focus on direct response. All of us have seen a lot of advertising in our lives. And so we maybe think of, polar bears drinking Coca-Cola when we're watching the Super Bowl or something, but that's actually brand advertising. If you're under, let's say, $100 million a year in revenue, I would focus on direct response marketing and make sure you're measuring the results.
Yeah, that's a great point. Not everyone has that Nike or Coca-Cola or Apple awareness. And like at the end of the day, go after that intent to purchase and see if you can convert that level, not the, here's who I am and you know who I am already kind of thing too. Where can people find you then to find more information about you and your business?
Yeah. So for local and B2B companies, we're at getfoundmadison.com. And if you're an e-commerce company, check us out at caravandigital.com.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thanks for joining today and have a good day.
Thank you.